Have you ever been at the gas pump filling up your vehicle and wondered how much oil is imported into the U.S. each day to fill up cars? I have, and according to EIA.gov, the U.S. imports an average of 7.7 million barrels of oil per day. The Keystone XL pipeline is a topic of international concern since it affects both Canada and the United States. It is also a topic of local concern because it directly affects Nebraska. The Keystone XL pipeline may raise many environmental issues of concern, but it is one of the safest forms of petroleum transportation through the United States. The background of the existing Keystone pipeline will be briefly examined, along with the proposed Keystone XL pipeline route. A detailed description of the environmental issues that are raised will then be examined, such as possible oil spills and the new route running directly over the Ogallala Aquifer. Once these aspects have been looked at, one can then discuss the potential solutions to address these issues of concern and continue on with the building of the Keystone XL pipeline. TransCanada is a major North American energy company responsible for making the current pipeline operational. The 30-inch steel Keystone pipeline runs 2,153 miles from a pump station in Hardisty, Alberta, over to Manitoba, Canada, and down to Steel City, Nebraska. From Steel City, the pipeline is routed east towards Wood River and Paducah, Illinois, and has been operational since June of 2010. An extension of 36-inch steel pipeline runs 298 miles from Steel City to Cushing, Oklahoma, and has been operational since about February of 2011. The current pipeline delivers a type of petroleum known as oil sand, which is comprised of a mixture of sand, clay, water, and a viscous form of petroleum. Oil sands can be compared to tar because of its similar odor, color, and viscosity. Extremely large quantities of oil sands have been discovered in Canada, and this discovery will greatly reduce the amount of foreign dependency on oil. There are 39 operational pump stations that help move the oil sand deposits along this current pipeline route, according to www.fas.org. In the same article, TransCanada reported that the current Keystone pipeline has the capacity to deliver 591,000 barrels of oil per day. In 2008, TransCanada proposed to run the Keystone XL pipeline route from Hardisty, Alberta, down through Montana and South Dakota, and into Nebraska, where it would link up with the original pipeline in Steel City. The original proposal raised concerns because the pipeline would run directly through a 200-mile stretch of the Sandhills in Nebraska. This proposal was highly opposed by Nebraska legislator, environmentalists, and ranchers who lived in the area. Mike Johansen, Nebraska state senator, also opposed this route because of the environmental concerns it raised. The Sandhills had very loose soil where oil could leak deep down into the ground, according to johans.senate.gov. The article also stated that in January of 2012, TransCanada agreed to reroute the pipeline around the Sandhills of Nebraska, and in April of 2012, Governor Dave Heineman signed a legislation that would allow Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality, or the NDEQ, to propose new routes for the pipeline to be rerouted. The NDEQ and TransCanada have finally agreed on a new pipeline that would run 1,179 miles from Hardisty, Canada, around the Sandhills, down to Steel City, and with a carrying capacity of roughly 700,000 barrels of oil per day. And here's a map describing that. In the green is the current Keystone pipeline running from Hardisty over to Winnipeg, down to Steel City, and then from there it'll branch off to Oklahoma and Illinois. In the red is the current proposal for the Keystone XL pipeline expansion. It will run down through Montana, through South Dakota, around the sandhills and cut through just the edge of the Ogallala Aquifer. And from there, it'll link up with Steel City, Nebraska, where it'll branch off from there. Even though the new Keystone Pipeline proposal has been rerouted around the sandhills, environmental concerns are still an issue because of possible oil spills along both the existing and newly proposed pipeline route. The oil spills could possibly contaminate land along both of these routes, which would affect the people who utilize the land and water around the pipelines. A major concern for the Keystone Pipeline proposed route is now it runs directly over the Ogallala Aquifer. The aquifer is the nation's largest underground aquifer and is part of the High Plains Aquifer System. It covers roughly 174,000 square miles under the Great Plains. It accounts for a significant amount of water usage in the region, which includes 83% irrigation water, 30% usage for the entire United States for irrigation and agriculture, and 78% of those who live in the aquifer utilize it as a main source of drinking water, according to the USGS.gov website. The major environmental issue is possible oil spills from the KeystoneXL pipeline that can contaminate part of the aquifer, which would directly affect those who utilize the aquifer. Even though the NDEQ and TransCanada have approved this route, ranchers and environmentalists are concerned with the possibility of contamination, which could have a devastating impact on the ranchers and other people who utilize this aquifer. And here is a blown up picture of the proposed Keystone XL pipeline running through Nebraska. Here's the Nebraska Sandhills. The dotted red line was the original proposal, which was struck down, and the solid red line, which is the current proposal, runs around the Sandhills, but through the edge of the Ogallala Aquifer. With the possibility of oil spills and water contamination that are major issues, there are potential solutions to address these issues and ensure that they do not happen. The current Keystone Pipeline has implemented multiple fail-safe systems to minimize potential spills. TransCanada monitors and controls the pipeline through a computerized control center that is staffed 24 hours a day. There are sensors located all throughout the pipeline that are able to automatically detect and shut down sections of the pipeline or isolate a spill. This is updated every 5 seconds on the pipeline with more than 16,000 sensors, according to transcanada.org. In addition to these sensors, there will be automatic shut-off valves, and workers will have the ability to manually shut off areas for maintenance. According to the Omaha World Herald, the ability to shut down sections of the pipeline in order to isolate oil spills would keep the consequences on a local level instead of a regional level. The new Keystone Pipeline would also be buried deeper in the ground to keep oil spills off the topsoil. And they also plan on implementing a new technology called horizontal directional drilling, which is drilling under rivers a minimum of 25 feet. This will keep the oil from leaking up into the existing rivers, and it'll keep the pipeline safe from flooding or high river levels. The new pipeline will be made of thicker steel around rivers and lakes with advanced non-adhesive coatings to seal the pipes. In addition to the new advancements in constant surveillance from the Keystone Pipeline, studies have shown that since the aquifer acts as a natural filter because the water flows through the sand and clay, the oil would have a difficult time moving through this environment. Emergency crews would have enough time to survey the land and clean up any oil spill before it contaminates the water. In a testimony by UNL professor Jim Goki, before the National Resource Committee, according to the Keystone Pipeline website. He states, if groundwater were affected, the impact would be measured in tens of feet or hundreds of feet. He goes on to say that it would be consistent with experiences from other historical oil releases in the area. This demonstration shows that the aquifer is confined to less than about 300 feet. Any spills from the pipeline along this route could be cleaned up efficiently by crews and without affecting the people, groundwater, or the surrounding environment of the area. Also, new advancements in technology allow these spills to be cleaned up much quicker. The existing Keystone Pipeline has experienced only a handful of spills since becoming operational in 2010. There have been 11 confirmed spills along the path of the pipeline. 85% of these spills have been confined to less than 100 barrels, and 12% have been confined to less than 1,000 barrels. The remaining percentages have been less than 2,000 barrels. The majority of these spills occurred at the pump stations due to mechanical failures when the oil is being extracted or exchanged. The spills were cleaned up very quickly and isolated, efficiently cleaned with no potential contamination to the ground or water. In conclusion, the KeystoneXL pipeline is a topic of international concern, but it can be narrowed down to a topic of local concern in Nebraska. The KeystoneXL pipeline may be an issue of environmental concern to some, but it is also the safest form of oil transportation in the United States. Unlike spills that happen in the ocean or from a ship, along a waterway, or from a truck or train, which can have devastating effects over many miles, affecting an entire region, oil spills along the Keystone Pipeline can easily be isolated and efficiently cleaned up. Throughout this, the background of the existing Keystone Pipeline was examined, along with possible routes for the new KeystoneXL pipeline. Description of the environmental issues raised with possible oil spills and the pipeline going over the Ogallala Aquifer were talked about. And finally, the potential solutions to these environmental issues of great concern were looked at so that the Keystone Pipeline can move forward.